I think we're in the middle of three nonlinear accelerations all at the same time with the three largest forces on the planet, which I call the market, Mother Nature, and Moore's Law. So Moore's Law, coined by Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel in 1965, said the speed and power of microchips will double every 24 months. It's now closer to 30, but nevertheless, it's still going. It looks like a hockey stick. Mother Nature is climate change, biodiversity loss, population, growing like a hockey stick. And the market is digital globalization, not your grandfather's globalization. That was containers on ships, but everything is now being digitized, like this show, and globalized. We're in the middle of three of these accelerations all at the same time.
And people's response to that is fascinating, because I love the quote in the book from the Dutch chess grandmaster when he was asked about how he would prepare for a match with a computer. He said he'd bring a hammer. Is Donald Trump a hammer, do you think, trying to slow the pace of some of that change when you hear what he says about globalization?
A little bit. You know, Trump's strategy is to really build walls to keep these whirlwinds out, rather than to really focus on how we empower citizens and companies to live within the wind.
And do you think ultimately that is successful as an approach to actually deal with the acceleration, the change? That sort of strategy is likely to be successful?
I don't, Matthew. You know, and I will tell you why. You know, most of the change that's happening is actually not driven by trade. It's actually driven by that acceleration in technology and microchips. You know, Intel once tried to explain to people what an acceleration is like in technology. So they took a 1971 VW Beetle and they said, what if this car improved at the same rate microchips have? And they determined that VW Beetle today would go 300,000 miles an hour, it would get 2 million miles per gallon, and it would cost 4 cents. So that's what we're in the middle of. This is not about trade mostly. It's actually about technology eating more and more jobs, and how we empower people through lifelong learning to live in that kind of world.
Now, within that, in terms of a new president and Trump policy, what worries you most? His comments about China, his pivot to Russia, or his views about the Middle East, which I've seen that you've described as reckless?
Well, he is he was a chaos candidate, and he can be a chaos president, and he's well on his way. And the thing about Trump is his opponents can get so focused on the 10 different things he does, his alternative facts. He starts the day, or yesterday, saying that 4 million illegal people voted in the election. You don't know where this stuff comes from. If you focus on him too much, he can literally vacuum out your brains, okay? And therefore you don't think about what are the intelligent responses that as opponent or critic you have to engage in.
And you had his spokesman talking about alternative facts over the weekend. I mean, how worrying is that in your view, and how should the media respond? Because isn't there an element of just getting used to this new incumbent, getting used to his exaggerations, his interpretation of the world?
Well, we on the New York Times, we don't view these as exaggerations. In fact, we used a word on our front page today. It said the President Trump lied today. So we're not messing around here. These are deliberate fabrications. Whether he believes them or not, I don't know. But he's throwing dust in your eyes while he's doing all this over here, and he can make you crazy.
The thing is, I mean, you may be right that, you know, we're in the middle of turbulent change, and that is unsettling. It worries a lot of people. But you may be wrong that, you know, you look at only yesterday, the first joint operations with Russia targeting IS. He's promised to wipe it off the face of the planet. You know, if he makes progress on that, or makes progress on creating American jobs, that's a positive, isn't it?
Well, I must have missed the story in Syria, because Putin in Syria, for the last 2 years that he's been there, they haven't been trying to kill ISIS. They've been trying to kill democracy and pluralism. That's where the focus of Russia's attacks are. Is that the side we're on now? We're on the side with Putin, Hezbollah, Iran, and the mercenaries from Central Asia that are fighting. You know, Putin's not there to defeat ISIS.
So that whole pivot with Russia alarms you?
I mean, it alarms me because we don't really share the same interests. Putin's there to install Assad, and we're there supposed to create a power-sharing agreement. So, you know, it's very easy for someone like Trump, who doesn't know the world, to be manipulated a little bit. So you got to be careful.
You talked about the chaos theory. You've also said in the past about him being an attention deficit president. I mean, it's a good soundbite, but actually, is it the reality? I mean, you see these first few days in office, he is doing exactly what he said during the campaign he would do. It is perfectly orderly.
Yeah. He's certainly living up to his word, but you know, when you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So the question is, does he understand what world he's living in? What's his big vision for energy? bring back coal jobs and kill green energy jobs. See, what are we good at in America? We're good in technology. Let's forget that and employ more people digging rocks out of the ground so they can have a black lung disease. How much sense does that make? It's great for a day. And by the way, if you're one of those people who makes your living digging coal, that's wonderful. But their kids, what's their future?
Now, when you look at American politics, you know, you see the Democrats still in shock, trying to actually work out how they go about opposing this man, trying to find a formula. They seem all at sea still.
I think they are at sea, and that's where he keeps them so off balance. And again, I go back to, man, he can make you crazy. If you focus on his bizarre behavior every day, and every day he'll give you at least one or two things to focus on, you won't think clearly about what is the challenge for Democrats, which is how do you connect to people's guts, take them somewhere, as he did, but in the right direction.
So if you don't focus on what he's doing, what should be the approach?
Never watch his lips, always watch his hands. Focus on what he's doing, not what he's saying.